everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how to be a lot more productive in 2022. Alright, welcome back. So, it's March now, and if you haven't made your New Year's resolution, well, you're probably not alone. A lot of people have failed their New Year's resolution, including me. One of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to basically consume less kind of political content on the internet, whether that be an article or a video or something like that. And I have completely failed at that. And one of the things that I've learned is that, well, you know, it's really hard to completely change your behavior. And a lot of people know this as well. So again, I basically looked at the amount of time I was spending just, on political stuff, whether it's a video or an article or whatever, and it was just too much. So I decided to just do something else. And this is something that I highly recommend that you do as well. If you notice you're doing something that is not good, the best thing to do is to just kind of start doing something else. And I mean, I know that's really basic, but you really just have to pick yourself up and just do it, even if it's for like 5 seconds here. So let's say I was going to read an article about something political, then guess what? I would just do something else, right? And this actually worked for a little bit here. And one of the things that I have done is, I only watch a little bit per day, right? And so technically, is this a success where I've just kind of reduced the amount of what I wanted to do? And the answer is, yeah, that is a success. So even if you do less of what you think is what you're doing is bad, then that is definitely a good thing. Now, in terms of that goal in particular, a lot of people in the pandemic are put on screens. They may or may not have more time to themselves. And so I've noticed a lot of people just kind of bicker, especially a lot about politics here. And one of the things, since this pandemic is slowly coming to an end, if it hasn't already ended, and of course I know that there are a lot of infections going around here, but hopefully things kind of go back to more or less normal in terms of the pandemic, at least going forward here. But once things do, the number one thing that I would recommend to absolutely everyone is to just get off the computer. And this is kind of a funny thing because I make my money from people being on the computer, right? Like my whole income is based on people watching tutorials on a screen. But here's the thing, even I noticed this, is that if you can disconnect, that's really good. In fact, even if there's any goal that you should do is just to turn off your phone, right? Maybe for like 30 minutes. Like even if it's just like a little bit of time where you're away from your phone, that's really good. Now, this Christmas season, I went skiing and I didn't look at my phone once, and it was absolutely amazing. So if you can pick an activity like that where you just don't look at your phone, like maybe it's cycling, or whatever it is, just do something where you don't have to look at your phone for a long time. Now, I know a lot of people do this here, but I would say that if you were the kind of person that was on the screen a lot during the pandemic, then perhaps try to go off the screen and maybe talk to some other people too. And this is the other thing that I've noticed a lot. Now, I love being in front of the screen and I love being introverted, but even this pandemic broke me. And if it broke me, then it's gonna break a lot of other people as well. And so one of the things that you can do is just basically get out there, start talking to more people, and believe it or not, you'd be surprised at how many people are open to a conversation. Everyone's been kind of socially deprived in the last 2 years, and I think if you just start a neutral conversation, of course, about something, I think a lot of people will open up to. And of course, if you're at the park with your kids or something, there's a lot of people that are probably interested in having a chat. And of course they're not, you can obviously move on too. But this is the one thing I highly recommend. Now, of course, if you've been a fan of this channel and of me for many years, I've always told you that you should definitely have a hobby. And it's always best if your hobby has some kind of physical activity to it. It could be, and the best thing is that if there is a social component to it. So if you play a league soccer, I play ultimate frisbee and I absolutely love doing it, right? So if you can play like soccer or flag football, ultimate frisbee or something, then that's really good. Playing a solo sport like tennis, maybe not so much. Now, of course, you have to play against another person, but if you play a team sport in your spare time, it could be baseball or something like that, or cricket. Pick an activity or a hobby where you do something physical. This will be really good here. And if you can do something physical, get out and talk to more people and be away from your phone, that's even better here. And in fact, if phones weren't really essential to modern day, and if I wasn't a parent, I would turn it off. And I might even leave my phone at home and I just use my watch if I really needed to get somewhere or something like that. Because, if you need to get somewhere or like your payments are on your phone, if sometimes forgetting your phone might be a huge lifeline. But you know what? If I could leave my phone at home, I think that would be good too. Now, the other thing that I have done here is that in the last, let's say, 45 minutes before I go to sleep, I've been watching a tutorial that is not really that stimulating. I know that sounds really weird, but like a lot of the content on YouTube is designed to be really stimulating, specifically a lot of the political commentary that you tend to see here. And the thing that I've been doing is I've been just looking at a tutorial here. Now, a while ago, and this was like right before the pandemic, I had a goal to learn economics. Like, I've already kind of dabbled in it, but you know what? I basically said I'm going to watch economic videos basically before I go to bed. And it's been about 2 years since then, and I think I'm pretty versed in economics now. So every year or every 2 years or so, you should pick a discipline where you just watch a bunch of tutorials on. If you watch 100 hours of tutorials on something, it could be anything. It could be chemistry, economics, it could be ancient history. It doesn't matter what it is. Just do something where you're learning something new here. And before economics, I was really into to history, so I watched a lot of history videos too. So you always want to kind of learn something new. And this is something that you should do before you go to bed. And here's the thing. If you're learning something really kind of new and maybe even a little bit dry, it actually puts you to sleep a lot better here. Now, one of the things I like to do is to pick something where I can just kind of listen to it and kind of close my eyes and go to sleep. And I think this is much better than kind of looking at a screen. Now, sometimes you need to watch a tutorial where there's cool animations and whatnot. And of course, that's something you should do. However, if you pick something where you can just close your eyes, then that's good as well. Now, a lot of other people might not want to do this. They might not want to learn something new. You can always pick a podcast. Now, of course, not a politically charged podcast, just a podcast. There's lots of podcasts out there. In fact, there's podcasts where writers upload their stories, and that might be a good one to do. And the thing is there's so many podcasts out there where stories are uploaded. You pick your right genre. You can pick science fiction. You can pick, crime, whatever it is you want. There's probably a podcast out there. So that's probably a really good thing to do. Putting on my headphones, closing my eyes, and going to sleep is actually really good too. Now, of course, if you like reading, this is the perfect time to read. Now, I'm not a particularly big reader. I like listening to audiobooks, but that's just my personal opinion. If you want to read a novel before bed, then that is really good. So if you have a book or books that you want to read, that's probably the best thing you can do. But the other thing is that I know less and less people are reading books, although lots of people still read books, but it's just less than what it used to be. And I think a lot of people listen to audiobooks, hence why all these audio subscriptions are really, really popular. And this is something that I like to do as well. Sometimes I like to pick an audiobook here, but sometimes I like to pick the abridged version just because I don't have time to look at an audiobook for like 2 or 3 days. So usually the abridged version for me is what I like to do. So in conclusion, I've done a lot of things this year to help me out, and I've actually failed my New Year's resolutions quite a bit here. However, when you fail at something, you kind of have to look at why you failed it, and you need to move forward here. Now, I still have to look at kind of the news because it's a part of my job. It's my job to know what's going on and how that relates to everything. But I do less of that now. So one of the things I've tried to do is get more information with spending less time on it. And this is something that you need to do as well. You need to learn the most amount of things in the least amount of time. And of course, that's what my company does as well. So I want to know your thoughts down below. What have you done in 2022? Do you find that watching political and reading political content is good for you? Have you tried to reduce it? I want to know all your thoughts down below. What do you do before bed? Please post in your comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.